Hi everyone, I'm Elliot, the Managing Director of Kayman Recruitment, which specialise in rec to rec in London and US. At the moment, I've got James Baker with me, who is from Eximius, who will introduce himself. But I've worked with James quite a few years ago. James has worked his way up in recruitment, started off from the bottom to where he is now. Wanted to share his experience, with people in my network and everyone in recruitment to hopefully educate and give some information in terms of where he's at, where he's been, and I'll throw a few questions at him. But James, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Elliot. My name is James Baker. I am now a manager at Eximius Group and focusing specifically on risk management, quantitative analytics, and front office recruitment. As Elliot mentioned, he helped me out about 3.5 years ago, and sort of been staying in touch since then. So yeah, good to reconnect.
Cool. So we'll dive straight in, James. But I guess I just wanted to find out from you before COVID and lockdown, how did you find the sort of the 12 months up to that, and the last year or so in your role, and especially in as being a manager?
I think it's been a really interesting 12 months in recruitment for a few reasons. If you look into the Brexit negotiations, the political elements that were ongoing through last year, so it's all been a bit up and down. But I think in general, the markets have stayed pretty strong up until this year, and we have been seeing quite a nice recovery in 2020 until COVID-19 hit. But over the last 12 months, essentially, like my team's grown. Our client base, our portfolio is growing as well. Seeing a lot of really interesting movements in the markets, down to regulations, down to new technologies that are coming in, and really a diversification of financial services from traditional investment, commercial banking to more fintechs, different ways of retail banking and saving money. So yeah, I think it's been a very, very interesting 12 months. And I think it probably will continue to get slightly more interesting over the next 12 months, if I'm honest.
What about you, mate? Like, tell me more about, you obviously were a recruiter when you joined Eximius, and then you've had your promotions and obviously to lead to where you are now. What, for people listening in that are in recruitment, whether they're looking to get into management, that are just starting out in recruitment, or whichever the circumstance may be, how have you found that route, in that year of, as well as the market changes and you adapting to that? What about you with, are you managing people, or are you hiring for that? What's the situation there?
Yeah, I think, from my perspective, when I first got into recruitment, I wasn't sure which avenue you wanted to go down when it comes to, just sitting there being a big biller, or going into more of a management route. And I think within the first couple of years, I sort of realized that the management route was something that I wanted to go down, mainly because I think it offers you something different than just the recruitment on a day-to-day basis. Your wins, your team's wins become your wins, and you're able to sort of get your stamp on the market slightly more broadly. So I think transitioning into that it's quite a tricky skill, and it's quite a tricky way to change the way that you work. I think Eximius have been really good in assisting that and helping that over the last sort of 12 months. And the team's sort of grown, quite nicely. We're still relatively small, but I think the challenges are definitely there. That you're no longer just working for yourself. You are, very much, you have people relying on you, and also, you rely on them. So it's very much a two-way relationship. And it's just an added element into, I guess, the day-to-day work. But it's been super rewarding. And I'd say now that actually, I guess, managing would probably offer as many, if not more, positive days than just purely being a consultant.
I mean, not this one, I'm sure, get you into trouble, but do you have days sometimes where you sit there and think, you know what, like, I wish I could just worry about myself and just worry about my own desk and my own work and not have any of this responsibility? And look, we all get that as a business owner. Sometimes I may sit there and think, do you know what, like, this is, is this headache worth it? But it is, and we're all allowed, and we're only human to have those moments, right? But Do you come across that at all?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think everyone has those moments, whether it's, at work, whether it's in, sports, or whether it's in, at home. You kind of want sometimes just to focus on yourself. And I think ultimately you probably agree that you sort of have that day, you get back home, and then you're like, right, no, next day is a new day, and then you sort of crack on, sort of back to usual. But yeah, I think everyone, sometimes has those times when you're just like, I just need a bit of space for myself. But yeah, they're not hugely common. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be in management or business anyway.
Of course. One last question on this point. What would you advise recruiters who are progressing? Do you have any recommendations in terms of, for them to help educate themselves in terms of books, any training courses, anything that you would really recommend that they try and do, or do you reckon it's more of a natural, sort of progressive, mindset, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's very much twofold. I think both of the things you mentioned there are very true. I mean, I myself, not a huge reader, but did do a few audiobooks which are about how you present yourself and I guess management techniques. And hopefully your businesses will be able to offer you some sort of internal trainings as well on how to do that. But I also think, there is a mindset there. I don't think anyone should ever be, forced or pigeonholed into like a management if that's not something you want to do, because it is very rewarding, but it is quite tricky, and does have its challenges. And if you're not someone that wants to do that, it doesn't mean that you can't be successful in recruitment by not going down that route. So I think firstly, you do have to be tuned that way to want to, I guess, sacrifice some things yourself for others. But also there is definitely a learning perspective, because no one is perfect. And even, any manager, whether it's a, junior manager, senior manager, CEO, will still be learning consistently. So being open to learning, I think, is the most important thing that you should be able to have if you want to go down the management route. Always be open to learning and try new things.
Any one particular thing that stands out as your biggest challenge that you will never forget, that you're proud of and have got over? Or
I don't think I'd say I'd pinpoint it to one specific moment. I think the first month of management, I think is sort of a key thing for me to look back on and see there was lots of falls and errors, and just the way of doing things. I don't think there's one specific challenge that I've had that I look back on and think like that's really helped me. But I think that first month for me, like I say, is just it's a completely different way, because you come in one day and then suddenly your whole mentality and your whole way of working changes.
Fine.
You have to split your day up, try new things, seeing things aren't working, seeing things are working, and then just really kind of following on from that and making more of a natural progression sort of after that first few weeks or so.
Fine. Cool. Next question. I know you mentioned obviously the last year's been challenging with Brexit, all these different changes in the economy and markets, etc., and what you sort of specialise in. But what about the last 12 weeks? How's that affected you or changed anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be naive to say that this probably wasn't the hardest 3 months anyone's had in recruitment. I've been doing it sort of over 5 and a bit years and never experienced anything like this. Just a complete turn off in hiring. So yeah, I think the first 2-3 weeks was very strange, because no one knew what to do. So like there was people still sort of trying to hire, but then thinking, how are we going to do this? We can't meet people. So then everyone just put the brakes on. And I think at that point, everyone in recruitment then was all trying to do the same thing, which was very, very quickly re-engineer the process so that it can be done virtually. And that's what everyone was trying to do, testing out applications, Zoom, what we're using now, things like House Party, WhatsApp, FaceTime, trying to find a way that our clients could still hire and carry on processes. But then on their side, the issue was, how are you going to onboard people? How are you going to get people in on their first day? So I think for that first month or so, it was both sides, recruiters, candidates, clients, trying to find a way that this processes can actually still go ahead. And I think, I think a lot of people actually did quite a good job on that. Lots of especially my clients in financial services, were able to quite quickly enable people to be onboarded remotely. Or they were mobilizing their workforce so that everyone was working from home, and then obviously using some of the techniques that we were suggesting on an interview perspective. So after that first 4 weeks, we actually then got busier, and I had I think myself and a few others internally actually had very good April's, May's, because a lot of those processes were carrying on from January, February, and then March was a bit of a black spot, and then those things were continuing. So I think it actually turned out okay, but I think we're only just coming out of it now in mid-June, where people are actually starting to realise that regulations still need to be hit, targets still need to be hit, and to do so, you do need to look to hire. And I do think that in the future, remote working essentially is now going to become very much the norm. So again, that's going to have to take into consideration when hiring.
Fine. And as a manager, like, how have you adapted to this with people that work with you? And have you done anything differently? Have you found it quite tough? Have you struggled with anything? Or?
Well, I think we took advantage of government schemes, etc. So it was all about, I guess, just making sure that everyone was working to, I guess, the maximum of their ability, but obviously only if there was work available. Yeah. So I think along with probably every other business, let alone recruitment business, there was a temporary reduction sort of in headcount, which is obviously now looking to come out again. So I think these were decisions sort of that I think most directors in financial services, well, in any recruitment businesses, obviously had to take on quite quickly. And I think that from my perspective, from what I've heard in the market, I think a lot of people have made some good decisions in enabling to keep teams together. Like when we all come back in, and I think again without technology that would probably be quite tricky, if I'm honest.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree with you. Final sort of question: what was the plan now? What's your intention over the next 3-6 months? With your team and you in particular.
Sure. So we are going to be looking to continue to grow. That's really the main target. Now, obviously, COVID-19 has taken a bit of a hit to timescales, which I had in my head about what that growth would look like. But I do believe that over the next 3 to 6 months, things will open up. We'll get back to some sort of normality when it comes to the levels of hiring that we have, which will mean that we're able to mobilize more hiring plans. So from my perspective, I'd love to get a team that's slightly bigger, but also we're not someone that's going to, I'm not someone, and we as a business are not people, but we'll hire 3 or 4 people for the sake of it and then realize we haven't got enough work. We want to make sure we're growing organically. Over the last 18 months, we have been doing so, and that's what we want to continue to do, to make sure that everyone that comes in has a good platform to grow and develop, and isn't going to be stuck without anything to do. We want to make sure that people take ownership. I'm sure lots of people will know about risk and quant. There's so many avenues within those areas where people can take ownership, and that's one thing that I like to do with, I guess, the team that we have is taking ownership of specific areas. So the more people want to come in and specialize in one area, they can sort of take that, own it. And I think that's the important thing about what I want to offer as a manager, is having that ownership of a specific area, being able to grow and develop that. And then hopefully, that filters down sort of the longer we work on this.
Okay, fine. Any final note to throw out to people in recruitment that that's helped you get through this, that can help them get through this? Anything you've done differently, or?
I think making sure you're connected to your teams, the people in the industry, just making sure that you're remaining up to date, with what's going on, and making sure that you are using this time for some sort of self-improvement. whether that be work related, whether that be mental health perspective, just making sure that you're keeping active and being able to, you know, realize that this will come to an end and you will be coming back to work, and, you know, you want to come back either, you know, like maybe myself, you know, who's continued to work throughout. If you haven't been continuing to work throughout, you know, you want to come back with a sense of enthusiasm. And I think the best way to do that is to keep yourself motivated and find something to do from like a self-improvement perspective, you know, during these months.
Fine. Well, look, if anyone out there has any questions, anyone in in a particular market that obviously relates to what, you know, you guys do, James, feel free to reach out to him directly. If you're happy with that, I'll share out your profile to everyone out there. And if you are looking for work and you're interested, you know, in working with James, feel free to reach out to him directly. It'd be best if you came through me, but ultimately you're more than welcome to go through James. But no, look, you know, I hope this has been informative for everyone out there. And James, I know you're busy, so I really appreciate your time with this as well, mate. And hopefully we'll speak again very, very soon.
No problem. Thanks again.